Speak less, control more. The power of silence. Pause strategy. Our modern society, especially in Western culture, seems obsessed with the idea of talkativeness. From an early age, we are taught to be active, express our opinions, and participate in discussions. In schools, a raised hand and a loud answer are encouraged. At work, initiative and the ability to self-present are valued, and on social media, success is attributed to those who constantly generate content, express their thoughts, and demonstrate their involvement. We have become accustomed to thinking, the more I speak, the more I am heard, the more important I seem, the more noticeable my presence. The idea of being heard has almost become an end in itself, a symbol of success and influence. Whether in a business meeting, a friendly argument, or even a family conversation, many of us strive to fill any pause. An awkward silence arises and our inner voice immediately prompts us, say something. Come up with something. Don't let the pause drag on or you'll be considered incompetent or indifferent. We are afraid that if we remain silent, we will miss our chance to speak up, prove our point of view, or that we will simply be forgotten or considered to have nothing to say. We feel that silence is a sign of weakness, insecurity, incompetence, or even a lack of knowledge. If you sit quietly in a meeting, some might decide that you have no ideas or are not interested. If you do not take the initiative in a conversation, you might be considered passive or even boring. This deeply ingrained notion of speak to exist dictates our behavior in various situations. But what if the opposite is true? What if the most powerful tool for influence and control over a situation lies not in words, not in a torrent of eloquence, and not in the ability to outshout an opponent, but paradoxically in their absence? What if the ability to keep silent at the right time, to maintain a strategic pause, or even to consciously limit the volume of your remarks can become your superpower, allowing you not only to dominate a conversation without uttering a word, but also to make others talk more, show initiative, reveal information, and even come to conclusions that benefit you, all while feeling that it is their own decision? This is not a magic trick, not a cunning manipulation in a negative sense, and certainly not a manifestation of dark psychology. On the contrary, it is a deep and subtle understanding of the psychology of communication that allows you to lead a conversation without openly dominating it, without imposing your will, but rather guiding its flow, like an experienced navigator steering a ship through turbulent waters. It's like a conductor who doesn't play all the instruments in the orchestra at once. They don't blare on the trumpet, beat the drums, or pluck the violin strings. Their task is not to make noise, but to manage the chaos of sounds with one wave of the baton, one glance, or even a barely noticeable gesture, guiding the entire orchestra, making each instrument sound at the right moment, creating harmony. They control the entire process almost without making any sounds themselves. Let's consider how this works in practice, relying on everyday examples. Example 1. In a business meeting, imagine a typical work meeting. A complex problem is being discussed and everyone takes turns expressing their opinions. John talks a lot, in detail, trying to convince everyone of his correctness. Charlie interrupts to insert his smart remark. Bob fidgets nervously and constantly inserts, and well, you know. And Jennifer, the project manager, sits silently. She listens. Her gaze is attentive, she occasionally nods but doesn't utter a word. All colleagues notice that Jennifer is silent, and this creates a certain expectation effect. What is she thinking? Why isn't she speaking? Her silence, like a magnet, attracts attention. When the discussion reaches a deadlock and everyone has spoken, it is to Jennifer that the unspoken question is addressed. What do you think, Jennifer? And when she, after a pause, utters just a few phrases, perhaps a short question that redirects the entire previous discussion, or one or two sentences that summarize and offer a solution, these words are perceived with particular force. Because she did not fill the air with empty words. Her silence created a context for the significance of her subsequent words. Her conciseness sets her apart from the general noise, giving her opinion a weight that other negotiators could not achieve with their verbosity. She allowed others to speak their minds, to vent, while she herself gathered information and formulated a precise, well-calibrated solution. Example 2, in a friendly conversation or argument. Let's say you and a friend are discussing some pressing topic, and you disagree with each other. Your friend emotionally and at length explains his position, brings up many arguments, not letting you get a word in. Your instinctive reaction is to interrupt, start arguing, prove your point. But what if instead you simply fall silent? Maintain a pause, look him in the eyes, nod, showing that you are listening. Your friend, accustomed to immediate reactions or interruptions, will feel the silence. He might start getting nervous, thinking, "What does he think of me? Why is he silent? Did I say something wrong?" In this pause, he might begin to reevaluate his own arguments. Perhaps he'll offer a compromise. "Well, of course, that's just my opinion, but..." Or, "Although, on the other hand, I understand that..." Or he might even reveal some additional information himself that will help you understand his point of view or find a weakness in his argumentation. You, without saying a word, made him think, analyze, and even, to some extent, seek your approval. Your silence created a psychological vacuum that he felt the need to fill, often to the detriment of his original position. Example 3. In family communication. Often in families, situations arise where one family member emotionally expresses their grievances or children try to hide something. A parent who usually immediately starts lecturing or asking questions can try a different tactic. For example, a teenager comes home late and is clearly holding something back. Instead of immediately launching into an aggressive interrogation, you can simply sit nearby, calmly look them in the eyes, and remain silent. Perhaps start doing something neutral but staying within their line of sight. The silence in the house, the unusual lack of reaction from the parent, can become a much more powerful stimulus for the teenager to talk than shouting and reproaches. They will feel an unspoken expectation, the pressure of their own discomfort. And, quite likely, they will come over and say, "Mom/Dad, I need to tell you something." Silence here works as an invitation to trust, not as a threat. It allows the child to come to the decision to open up on their own, to feel that they won't be judged immediately but are ready to be heard. At the heart of all this lies a deep understanding of the psychology of communication. Silence is not passivity, it is an active, strategic choice. It allows you to control the pace of the conversation. In a world where everyone is rushing to speak, a pause forces others to slow down, to think, and this allows you to maintain a strategic advantage. It prevents impulsive decisions and gives you time to consider your next moves. It's like a chess player who doesn't make a move immediately but waits, making the opponent nervous and prone to mistakes. Increase the significance of your words. When a person speaks little, every word they utter carries more weight. They seem more thoughtful, judicious, and wise. People subconsciously attribute greater competence to those who don't babble idly. Remember a wise teacher who speaks little, but every sentence they utter is filled with deep meaning, and everyone hangs on their every word because they know that behind them lies contemplation, not just an emotional impulse. Create a psychological vacuum. Our brain is programmed to fill empty spaces. A prolonged pause in a conversation causes discomfort, and the person you are speaking with begins to speak more themselves to relieve this tension. They may reveal additional information, express their true thoughts, or even propose a solution you were waiting for. This is a powerful tool for gathering information without direct pressure. Practice active listening. If you are not speaking, you are listening. And sincere, attentive listening is the foundation for building trust and understanding. People appreciate being heard, not just being waited for their turn to speak. Silence allows you to understand the interlocutor more deeply, their motives and needs, which ultimately gives you more control over the situation because you possess information. You can notice nuances that you would have missed if you were busy formulating your response. Manage emotions in tense or conflict situations. A pause can defuse heated emotions, allowing both you and your interlocutor to cool down. It can force an aggressive opponent to calm down, as their rage is met with your composure and lack of the reaction they expect. This disorients them and forces them to reconsider their tactics. This is not a magic trick, but a deep understanding of the psychology of communication that allows you to lead a conversation without dominating it. It's like a conductor who doesn't play all the instruments at once, but with a single wave of the baton, directs the entire orchestra. You guide the course of the conversation, give others space for self-expression while maintaining control over the process and influencing its outcome. This is the highest form of influence, when people themselves come to the right conclusions, feeling that it is their own decision while you have merely skillfully created the conditions for it. That is why the ability to be silent at the right time, to maintain a strategic pause, or even to consciously limit the volume of your remarks can become your superpower. It allows you not only to dominate a conversation without uttering a word, but also to make others talk more, show initiative, reveal information, and even come to conclusions that benefit you, all while feeling that it is their own decision. In the next part, we will explore these psychological principles in more detail and learn how to apply them in practice. Now that we have realized that silence can be a powerful tool of influence, it's time to delve into the psychological principles that make it so effective. These are not some secret tricks or manipulations, but a skillful use of natural human reactions to silence and a deep understanding of communication dynamics. We will examine these principles sequentially, supporting them with clear examples from everyday life. Firstly, silence creates a vacuum. This is one of the most fundamental principles. People experience discomfort from a prolonged pause in conversation. Our brain is programmed to fill empty spaces, whether it's physical space or an informational vacuum. In the context of communication, when an unexpected silence occurs, most people feel an almost instinctive desire to fill it with words. This happens because silence in dialogue is often perceived as a signal that something is wrong. Perhaps the interlocutor is waiting for an answer, disagrees, or you said something inappropriate. This tension forces the person you are speaking with to start talking more themselves in order to get rid of this discomfort. Imagine a situation: you are in a job interview or an important business meeting. You have asked a question that requires the interlocutor to think, perhaps to admit something or to make a difficult decision. Instead of an immediate answer, you simply hold the pause, maintaining a calm, attentive facial expression. The uncomfortable silence grows. The candidate or partner, feeling the pressure of this silence, begins to fill it with words themselves. They may reveal additional information that they initially did not intend to disclose, express their true thoughts that were hidden behind formal formulations, or even propose a solution that you were waiting for but did not want to voice first. For example, you ask about project deadlines, and instead of immediately suggesting a deadline, you go silent. The interlocutor, trying to fill the silence, may start listing all potential difficulties. And then, under the pressure of the vacuum, they themselves will propose more realistic and possibly more favorable for you deadlines than if you had pressured them yourself. They feel the need to justify or explain themselves, and this makes them speak more than they had planned. Secondly, silence increases the perceived significance of your words. When a person speaks little, each of their words gains more weight, like a precious gem that is not scattered everywhere, but carefully preserved. Someone who constantly talks risks devaluing their words, making them part of the general informational noise. In contrast, a person who speaks little appears more thoughtful, judicious, and wise. People subconsciously attribute greater competence to those who do not chatter idly, but carefully choose their expressions. Think of a wise teacher or mentor. They may not deliver long lectures, but each of their sentences is filled with deep meaning, and everyone hangs on their every word. Why? Because their silence before speaking and after it shows that they ponder every word, that their thought is not accidental but deliberate. This creates an aura of profoundness. Recall how in any meeting or company, a person who is usually reticent, but when they finally utter a phrase, everyone falls silent and listens attentively. Their words are perceived as something important because they are rare. This creates the impression that they have something valuable to share rather than just a desire to fill the air. Their silence makes others listen because they know that their remarks are worthwhile. Thirdly, silence is a powerful tool for active listening. If you are not speaking, you are listening. This seems obvious, but in practice, many of us listen to reply rather than listen to understand. Genuine, attentive listening is the foundation for building trust, deep connections, and consequently, for effective influence. People appreciate being truly heard when they are allowed to express themselves fully rather than just waiting for their turn to speak or immediately interrupting. Silence allows you to understand the interlocutor more deeply, their true motives, needs, fears, and desires. When you are silent, you give the other person space for self-expression. They can tell you much more than you could learn if you constantly asked questions or voiced your assumptions. For example, your friend is sharing a personal problem. If you constantly give advice or share your own experiences, they may feel that they are not being heard. But if you simply nod silently, maintain eye contact, show interest, they will continue to talk themselves, delving into details that will help you understand the whole situation. This information, which you gain through active silent listening, ultimately gives you more control over the situation as you have a complete picture. You can notice nuances, contradictions, unexpressed emotions that you would have missed if you were busy formulating your response. Fourthly, silence controls the pace of conversation. In the modern world, where everyone is rushing to speak, where a fast pace of communication dominates, a pause becomes a powerful tool for slowing down and control. If you want the interlocutor to think before answering, or to prevent them from making an impulsive decision, simply hold a pause after your question or statement. This pause forces others to slow down, to think, and this allows you to maintain a strategic advantage. It prevents hasty, impulsive decisions which are often made under the pressure of the moment and gives you time to consider your next steps. This is like a chess player who does not make a move immediately after the opponent's move, but waits. They look at the board, consider all possible options, making the opponent nervous and guessing what they are planning. In negotiations, for example, after you have presented your proposal, silence forces the other side to be the first to voice their objections or counteroffer. This gives you valuable information and time to prepare a response. You do not rush, do not succumb to pressure, and this demonstrates your confidence and self-control, which, in turn, increases your influence. Fifthly, silence can be a way to manage emotions. Intense, conflicting, or emotionally charged situations, a pause can defuse the intensity of passions. When emotions run high, people tend to speak a lot and impulsively, often regretting what they said later. Silence at such a moment is like a lightning rod. It gives both you and the interlocutor time to cool down. Imagine an argument where your opponent is shouting and being aggressive. Your instinctive reaction is to respond in kind, to enter into a verbal brawl. But if you simply fall silent, maintaining a calm facial expression and an open posture, their rage will clash with your composure. This disorients them. They expect reciprocal aggression or at least a verbal reaction, but they receive silence. The absence of the expected reaction can force an aggressive opponent to calm down as their energetic impulse meets no resistance and gradually fades. They may begin to feel awkward and then a need to explain or justify themselves. Silence in such a case does not mean agreement, but demonstrates your self-control and unwillingness to succumb to provocations. This gives you the opportunity to seize the initiative in the conversation once emotions have subsided. All these principles show that silence is not an absence of communication, but its highest, more controlled, and strategic form. It allows you to operate at a deeper level, influencing people's subconscious reactions and guiding the conversation in the desired direction. It is an art that requires practice, but mastering it can significantly increase your effectiveness in any communication, be it personal or professional. Finally, we have reached the concluding part of our discussion about the power of silence. We have explored how verbosity is often perceived as a virtue, while in reality, true power can lie in the ability to be silent at the right time. We delved into the psychological principles that make silence such a powerful tool. Creating a vacuum, increasing the perceived significance of your words, active listening, controlling the pace of conversation, and managing emotions. Now it's time to bring it all together and understand how the law of silence can become not just a set of techniques, but a part of your conscious, ethical, and effective communication style. It is important to emphasize that the law of silence is not a set of tricks to suppress or manipulate people who will act against their will. We are by no means talking about dark psychology, about exploiting the vulnerabilities of others or forcing them to do something out of fear or awkwardness. On the contrary, it is the art of effective communication based on deep respect for the interlocutor and a sincere understanding of human nature. It is the ability to exert influence without dominating, to lead by giving others space for self-expression, thinking, and making their own decisions. The whole secret is that these strategic pauses, these subtle signals of your silence, act very quickly. Often within 30 seconds you can change the dynamic of a conversation, make the interlocutor reconsider their position, or reveal new, valuable information. This happens because the human brain, as we mentioned earlier, strives to fill a void. When you deliberately create this void in dialogue, other people subconsciously feel the need to fill it, often revealing much more than they intended or offering solutions you didn't even ask for. This is not about forcing someone to obey you through power or pressure, but about creating conditions in which people come to the necessary conclusions themselves, feeling that it is their own, freely made decision. This is a key point. If a person feels compelled, they will resist or feel resentment. If, however, they believe they arrived at the thought or decision themselves, they will be much more committed to it. Your role here is that of a catalyst, not a dictator. You guide the process, creating space for reflection. True control here is manifested not in direct instructions, not in an authoritarian tone, but in the ability to guide the conversation by creating pauses that allow for deeper thought, analysis of the situation from all sides, and more considered decisions. Imagine you are in negotiations. Instead of immediately responding to every objection, listen to it completely and then hold a pause. This pause can make your opponent vocalize their hidden motives themselves or propose a compromise they initially didn't intend to offer. Your silence signals your confidence that you are not rushed and that you have time for analysis. Consider how you can implement the pause strategy in your daily life. This doesn't require radical behavioral changes, but rather a conscious approach to each interaction. At work, instead of being the first to express an opinion in meetings, give others a chance to speak. Listen carefully to what colleagues say, and only then, if it's truly necessary, contribute your input. If you've asked a question that requires an answer or a solution, don't rush to fill the silence. Hold a pause. Perhaps a colleague will suggest a more effective solution themselves or confess a problem they might otherwise have hidden. When you are speaking to an audience, use pauses between sentences or important ideas. This will give your words weight and allow the audience to process what you've said. For example, after presenting a key argument, take a short pause and look at the listeners. This will make them ponder your words. In the family, when communicating with children or a partner, if a conflict arises or someone is clearly holding something back, try the pause strategy. Instead of immediate questions and reproaches, simply listen completely and maintain silence. Your child, accustomed to an immediate reaction, might start talking more, trying to fill the silence and eventually reveal the true reason for their behavior. This creates a safe space for openness. Similarly, with a partner, if they are emotionally sharing their experiences, just listen silently. This will show your willingness to be there and not immediately judge, which can lead to a deeper confession. In communication with friends, if a friend is sharing a problem, instead of immediately offering solutions, just listen to them, using silence as a tool of support. Sometimes people just need to talk, and your silent presence and attentive listening will be much more valuable than any advice. When you are waiting for an answer to a question, hold a pause. Don't immediately re-ask. This forces your friend to think and give a more meaningful answer. Why does it work? Respect silence demonstrates respect for the interlocutor. You show that you value their thoughts and give them time to express themselves. Perception of strength. A person who is not in a hurry to speak is perceived as more confident, in control of the situation, and not succumbing to pressure. Avoiding mistakes. The less you speak impulsively, the less likely you are to make a mistake, say something unnecessary, or provoke a conflict. Information gathering. Silence is the best tool for obtaining information. While others speak, you listen, analyze, and collect data that you can then use to make more informed decisions. Creating tension. A slight, controlled tension caused by a pause can prompt the interlocutor to reveal information or make a decision. Ultimately, the law of silence is a path to becoming a more influential and respected communicator. It's not about becoming a silent or withdrawn person, but about making every word you say carry weight and meaning. It's about using silence as a strategic tool that allows you not only to speak less but also to achieve more. You will learn to negotiate, resolve conflicts, build trusting relationships, and influence people in a way that makes them feel heard, understood, and come to your conclusions independently. This is a skill that requires practice and awareness, but mastering it will bring you immense dividends in any area of life where human relationships and the ability to influence effectively are important.